So we breathe in that peace and we exhale that love. And again, we know that all is well and all is well. And all manner of things are well. One more deep breath. Rooting ourselves into this present moment. Beautiful. So today, maybe some of you saw, but yesterday, this morning at 12 a.m., I posted what we're going to talk about today. And it's why patterns are illusions. And I thought that was such a rebel thing to say, because so often we think about our life story and we see reoccurring patterns. And then here, I was in a session the other day, and then it just came through to me that, oh my gosh, all these patterns that we think keep repeating again and again and again in our life are actually not patterns at all. It's pure illusion. We are the people who are creating associations and linking it together. So breathe that in for a moment. All these patterns that you're constantly seeing in your life and constantly maybe still repeating to this day, they ain't true. And that kind of actually disrupts some of our belief systems about it, because it is a huge collective consciousness in humanity to believe in patterns. History repeats itself in global scale and also in just our personal lives. So how might this be? Let me go ahead and share a few things. We project the past onto the present moment, creating a story of how they are linked. But they are not linked because the past no longer exists. The link of connection only exists in our mind, yet through our ability to create and recreate, we literally repeat the past, but rather we are repeating the same present moment again and again, always anew, never to grow out of it until we tap into a different vibrational frequency. I love that. So we are repeating the same present moment again and again and again. And the most common area I see this in is relationships. Who has noticed like a trend in your relationship patterns? Maybe the type of people you date, or maybe the type of arguments or issues that you have in your current relationships. It's amazing that we just keep doing this. And what's fascinating, what I often see is maybe we've been hurt before, or we've been stood up before, or someone lied to us before, and then instantly we take this story, we hold on to it, and then maybe we start to date someone else, we start to develop a new friendship, we go into a new community, and something triggers us. What do you often go back to and think about? The past, that person, that story, and then once you have that connection, you start projecting that story onto this new person, even though it is not connected. But you make the connection in your mind, and the moment you make that connection in your mind, you have just destroyed that relationship in a lot of ways. Because now there's only one pathway that I can go and create, or at least it's going to be very difficult to create a different pathway. Because once you put an association to that person, that place, or that thing, guess what happens? Because of the law of attraction, you are now creating a brand new reality that can only link to that. And even if 90% of their behavior is completely different, you're only going to see that 10% that possibly you don't like, because still as a human consciousness, we tend to focus on the negative. Not a bad thing, but we're still kind of in that zone. Maybe some of you can relate to that in your life. You pick up the scab. And so it's interesting that here we instantly feel triggered, project a new story, an old story, but on a new circumstance. And then here it keeps showing us again and again and again. And then we say, well, just all men are the same. Who has said that statement before? No one's admitting to it. But isn't that's an example of that, isn't it? So think about that for a moment. Breathe that in for a moment. Thus, in essence, we become trapped in a cycle of nowness, blaming past events for making us this way. It's because of this I have trust issues. This because I have an addiction. Yet not realizing we are the ones choosing it over and over and over again, the past having nothing to do with it, yet our mind and our beliefs being in full control. That's a real radical idea, that the past has nothing to do with your present. That almost doesn't make sense, does it? It's like, But if we're really getting into the pseudoscience and all that fun stuff, the universal laws, and really in the quantum theories and all this new information that's flooding out, that there really is no such thing as the past, and all that exists is this moment, and then this moment, and then this moment, and then this moment, and how this moment creates the past and the future. So many New Agers and all these different religions and spiritual paths, we say that, don't we say that? A lot of people say all that exists is this moment. Yet we don't actually practice it because we're constantly looking back, opening that window into the past, sticking our head through and saying, hey neighbor. So it's funny how we're saying one thing, but we are actually doing a completely opposite thing. And so that's why I'm saying, if we can fully embrace that and fully engross into the now, and every new person you meet, even every person that maybe you already know in your life, the next time you go into that circumstance or interaction, the next time you go into that interaction, can you just see what is there? Because every single day you're reborn. Every single day you're reborn. And what traps relationships from crumbling and falling apart is what? Holding on to what happened. You hurt me. Did you know that you can actually not remain upset at someone? There's no such thing as remaining upset at someone from something that happened in the past. Because if it happened in the past, that upset, it's gone. It's used up. It's a battery that no longer works. But you're remaining upset at the person in the present moment for something that they're not presently doing. Unless they're presently doing it. Then you could go for it. Have your fun. But if it's something that happened over here, this window, not Emma, this window, isn't that interesting that we are using this story and projecting, we are taking this information and using it and saying, this is who you are in this now, not honoring that nothing stays the same. And we take this information, we project it onto this person, and then we trap them. And that is where lack of forgiveness comes from. That is where holding on to anger, holding on to grief, holding on to all forms of stress and suffering comes from. But if you say that the past does not exist, oh my gosh, this will solve so many world problems, so many relationship problems, because we build up this fort. We have these moats with alligators in them, we have this drawbridge, we have these spikes on the walls, we have some heads on the walls and the spikes to scare off people, our victims. And so it's funny how we build this huge fort to ward people off, and then we say, I want love. Isn't that great? I just love the idiosyncrasies of human nature. I think us humans, we're such a fascinating species. We are so dualistic. We are so... we're a divine paradox. And so really think about this for a moment. Think about what we're saying, that patterns are illusions. And if you can honor that patterns are illusions, and you just say, I'm creating this again, there's so much more power in saying that than saying, these patterns, I can't escape them, they just keep reoccurring. No. Based off of my thoughts about reality, I'm creating it anew every single day. Does that make sense? It is a pattern is not a pattern, it is a choice. I am choosing to think this way, I am choosing to act this way, and what's funny is maybe you've done this before in your life, but the moment you changed your mind about something, have you noticed the pattern of what recently you were chewing on completely goes away? The moment you actually have this epiphany, this brand new shift in consciousness, it's gone. That's the key. Who has, just through age and maturity, you're not the same as you were when you were a teenager, and you probably had all these crazy stuff going on, the hormones, and you were just, you're about to have one. Pre-teen. You're not that same person because you had epiphanies along the way. And it's funny how those patterns no longer exist. Some might, because a lot of people carry that stuff with them. That's where I have a I have a nice clientele based on that. Thank you. Because we hold on to these things. And a lot of them do come from childhood. And then, like we said, we blame. We point the finger. And that's not a place of power. And that's why we teach non-victimhood. Because anytime you're a victim, that's one of the most powerless places to be. Because when you say, you did this to me, what you're saying is, I don't have control over this bad hand that I was dealt. You dealt this to me, and now I have to deal with these cards, rather than saying, I'm just going to deal my own hand from now on. You see the power there? So let's continue reading. We recreate what, I really like this. We recreate what is familiar. That's partially where patterns come from too. We constantly recreate what is familiar to us by choice, due to fear or discomfort of the unknown. So we say we don't want these patterns, but secretly we do because it's familiar and it's comfortable. And so when you meet someone new and they're a brand new biscuit right out of the oven, what are you going to do?
Thank you, Dutch.
We pour some gravy on it. We associate it with someone else that we know. We associate them with an experience that we had. We associate them with similar interests. We try to figure them out so that we can figure out where they go in our life. One point of contrast, I find this with a lot of people that I've dated or been in a relationship with in the past, and this was one thing that drove me crazy. It drives me crazy! But I released that pattern. Is that in a relationship, I've noticed some of the men I've dated, I would bring them into an environment and they would be quiet and they would not speak or talk until they figured everyone out. Isn't that interesting? Mm-hmm. Until they were able to associate with them and figure out where they would fit into the mold. I think a lot of people do that. And I hear a lot of people, a lot of my students and the clients, a lot of people I meet, they will go into an environment, and what's interesting, what's happening is they could be quiet and they could observe for 1, 2, 3 months before they actually get to show their personality. So they are waiting. They are in this moment of waiting. Isn't that interesting? Rather than this going into it. So that's where the biscuit, the association comes from. We are trying to compartmentalize and figure out life before actually living it. And so that would be my trigger, and I would get slightly upset at it because I'm saying, why can't we just go into each circumstance, each new interaction, and start living from moment one? Mm-hmm. Do you see the difference there? Rather than trying to wait and figure out, where do I fit in? It doesn't matter where you fit in. Because the beautiful thing is, when you are confident and you tap into your own personality, that is the richness that creates innovation. That is what people are attracted to. Who has done that before? Where it's fascinating that you go into circumstances, you hide your authentic self, and then you figure it out. But then you do the same thing to other people when you're observing them. Isn't that interesting? You meet someone new, you try to figure them out. But what if we just stop the figuring out, and then you just say, I like you and you like me, let's just share some laughs. That's one thing maybe some of you have noticed here. The moment you walk through that door, I really try to create this environment where I don't give a shit. And in essence of most of you, I hope, could feel very comfortable from day one. Yeah, you might feel a little bit, this is a new place and yada, yada, yada. But when talking to me, especially in a session, generally in the first session, you're just like, I could take my coat off. I could put my feet up. Sometimes I do that in sessions.
The lobster can molt.
Oh, what was that?
The lobster can molt.
The lobster can molt. Yes. From last week. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So think about that for a moment. We are creating these associations by choice to figure out where we fit in and where other people fit into our life. But what we're doing is that's recreating the patterns. Isn't that interesting? We are recreating what was yesterday, and then it keeps happening again and again and again and again. But what if you just went into every experience as a new experience and just showed up 100% vulnerable? Oh God. 100% vulnerable and sharing your joy. How would that change life? How would that change humanity? This is the Homo sapien evolution into Homo luminous I talk about in my book. Where's Chip? Where's Chip? Buy the book. Buy the book. The Homo sapien evolution into the Homo luminous beings, where we stop this pattern. Because it's not a pattern. It's the recreation anew every single day. So let me finish that paragraph. We recreate what is familiar by choice due to a fear or discomfort of the unknown. We are attached to making sense of things. So naturally, when things go right or wrong, we must attribute the failures or successes to something that we're relatable to. This is an evolutionary defense mechanism for us, such as seeing danger colors on poisonous frogs, snakes, and insects, or even the stripes on a skunk. So you associate danger of the past, something or someone that hurt you, and then you project it into the future of this new person, and then you say, oop, red flag, red flag, red flag, even though they are not the same frog, insect, skunk, or bug. That's our old system of defense mechanisming that we do not need to carry over into the present moment, because what that does is it is at the detriment of opening up your heart, of loving, because you're associating this person with this person, and there's nothing between it. And it creates a victim out of you. When you do attribute, you say, see, this always happens to me. This always happens to me. Boom, there it is again. Boom, there it is again. Boom, there it is again. But if you just say, you know what? Separate experience, separate experience, separate experience, separate experience, you don't have this pattern anymore. How did I choose to react and interact with this circumstance that led to this? How did I choose to interact? And what's fascinating is generally each time you're reacting the same way, and that's why it keeps happening. Not because it's the people, it's because of you creating your reality. Do you see the difference there? Isn't that interesting? Now, I'm not going to recommend going up and picking up all these insects and bugs and snakes in the world and just saying, I love you, you're an individual. Just because you have the same poisonous colors as this guy over here, you're not poisonous. Yeah, just focus on people. Unless it's, what is that one snake? That there's the poisonous kind. If red touches yellow, you're a deadly fellow. If red touches black, you're okay, Jack. They mirror the poisonous ones so that they're protected. So you do actually see that. Isn't that interesting? But what if we remain fully present in each interaction? What if we treated each individual as their own unique soul and being, rather than projecting what we think we know onto them? Boom! Projecting what we think we know onto them. Part of the living peace code, I release my attachments to what I think I know. How would this change our vulnerability complex? This becomes the end of judgment. This becomes the end of judgment. Become an innovator, an active participant in the creation of your reality. Linking past stories to the present strips your power away, because once there's an association, it becomes hard to change the story, and thus reality from that point on. But if everything is neutral, yes, that is the land of pure potential and intentional creation. If everything is neutral, that is the land of pure potential and intentional creation. Breathe that in. Thank you.